My 58-year-old coworker looked me dead in the eye, standing in a pile of crushed potato chips, and told me I was the childish one. But to understand how we ended up cleaning sour cream and onion crumbs off the breakroom floor like two toddlers in timeout, you need to know about a man we lovingly call Goldfish George, and why I finally decided to give him a taste of his own medicine. I'm 36, and I work in one of those standard corporate offices where everyone knows everyone's business, and we all have our little quirks. I'm generally a very patient person. I do my work, I mind my business, and I try to keep the peace. But every ecosystem has that one person who tests the limits of human sanity. For us, that's my colleague, George. George is 58. He's been at the company since the dawn of time, and he's only a few short years away from a comfortable retirement. We call him Goldfish George because, well, the man is incredibly spacey. He wanders around the office with a glazed look in his eye, completely oblivious to social cues, personal boundaries, or basic office etiquette. He's not a bad guy, but he has one habit that drives me absolutely up the wall. George has a nasty, compulsive habit of taking things directly out of people's hands without asking. I'm serious. He just takes things. Files, memos, communal snacks, staplers. If you are holding it and George needs it, or even just wants to look at it, he will snatch it right out of your fingers. I don't believe it's malicious. He does it to literally everyone, from the interns to the senior managers. His behavior causes a fair amount of office strife, but because he's older and that's just how George is, most people just sigh, roll their eyes, and ignore it. Except for me. I absolutely hate having things snatched out of my hands. It triggers a visceral, deeply annoyed reaction in my brain. I don't care if you're my boss or my best friend. You do not snatch things from me. The frustrating part is that I actually have no other issues with George. We've even carpooled together on several occasions when our cars were in the shop, and we get along great. We chat about our weekends, we share music, right up until I open a pack of gum in the passenger seat and he grabs a stick out of the foil before I've even had a chance to take one for myself. I have discussed this with George more than once. I've looked him in the eye and said, "Dude, just ask. I promise I'll give you some if I can." Think of it this way. If I hand you my wallet, that's fine. But if you snatch my wallet out of my bag, that's stealing. Every single time we have this conversation, George nods solemnly. He swears he understands. He promises he'll stop. And then, 3 days later, he does it again. Sometimes it's not so bad. If we're in the break room and he grabs a handful of popcorn I happen to be holding, whatever. It's annoying, but I can brush it off. But last week, George crossed a line. I was sitting at my desk, meticulously filling out a 3-page compliance form. It had to be done in blue ink, and I was on the very last paragraph. Suddenly, George materialized next to my desk. He patted his pockets, realized he didn't have a pen, and without a single word, he yanked the pen from literally between my fingers. Because I was mid-sentence, the sudden snatch caused the pen to drag violently across the paper, leaving a giant dark blue ink mark right across the signature line. I stared at the ruined document. George didn't even notice. He just started scribbling on a sticky note, mumbling about how he had to write down his very important idea before he forgot it. I had to print a brand new form and start all over again. Sitting there, rewriting that tedious compliance form for the second time, my patience completely evaporated. Talking to George like an adult clearly wasn't working. The wallet analogies weren't working. My polite requests were going straight in one ear and out the other. He was treating my personal space like a public buffet, and I was done being the accommodating coworker. I decided right then and there that I had had enough. If George was going to act like a toddler who hadn't learned the concept of sharing, I was going to have to teach him a lesson using toddler logic. The plan was simple. The very next time he grabbed something out of my hands without asking, I wasn't going to sigh. I wasn't going to give a polite lecture. I was simply going to snatch it back, instantly, without hesitation. I figured the physical shock of having an item yanked out of his own hands would finally make him understand exactly how jarring and annoying it is when he does it to everyone else. A classic case of operant conditioning, a taste of his own medicine. I didn't have to wait long to set my trap. In fact, the universe handed me the perfect opportunity the very next day. It was 2 p.m., the mid-afternoon slump. I walked into the break room and grabbed a big communal bag of potato chips from the pantry. I popped it open, leaned against the counter, and waited. I knew George's schedule. He was due for his afternoon coffee. Right on cue, the break room door swings open and in walks Goldfish George. He wanders over to the coffee machine, his eyes glazed over as usual. Then he spots me. More specifically, he spots the crinkly, shiny bag of chips in my hands. I watch him approach out of the corner of my eye. I keep my grip loose, waiting. He doesn't say hello. He doesn't ask how my day is going. He just reaches out his hand, and exactly as I predicted, he yanks the bag of chips right out of my grasp. Before he can even move the bag to his chest, my reflexes kick in. I instantly reach out and snatch the bag right back out of his hands. "Ask, please," I say, my voice firm but polite. "George, we've talked about this." George freezes. He looks at his empty hands, then looks at me, genuinely bewildered. Having made my point, I extend my arm and hold the bag out to him properly, offering him some chips the way normal human beings share food. But George's pride was wounded. His face flushed red. He let out this loud, dramatic huff of breath, and instead of just taking a handful of chips, he grabbed the entire bag from my outstretched hand. And he grabbed it aggressively. He yanked the plastic so hard and so fast that the bag simply couldn't handle the tension. With a loud pop, the bag split wide open right down the middle. It was like a potato chip grenade went off. A fountain of sour cream and onion chips launched into the air, raining down all over George's shoes, the counter, and the break room floor. For a solid 5 seconds, neither of us said a word. We just stood there in the silence of the break room, surrounded by a carpet of crushed snacks. The bag was only about a quarter full, but the mess was spectacular. I grabbed a broom, he grabbed some paper towels. We spent the next 10 minutes awkwardly cleaning up the mess side by side, and George was not pleased. As he was sweeping the last of the crumbs into the dustpan, he glared at me and muttered, "You know, you made me feel like a child just now." I bit my tongue to stop myself from saying, "Well, you were acting like one." Word of the great break room chip explosion spread around the office by the end of the day. Some of my coworkers thought it was hilarious and said it was about time someone stood up to George's snatching. Others thought I escalated the situation unnecessarily over some cheap snacks. Looking back, maybe my "here's a taste of your own medicine" plan was a little childish. But honestly, I haven't had a single pen or snack snatched from my hands since that day. What do you think? Was I the jerk for snatching the bag back? Or did George finally get the lesson he deserved? Let me know your thoughts and your best coworker revenge stories in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.